Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday night. You've gotten through, let's call it about half of the week, and you're ready to kick back and make a god. My name is Lars Castine. Nice to see you. Welcome to GODMAKER, Tabletop Gold's weekly homebrew extravaganza. If you don't know me, again, I'm Lars. Hi, nice to see you. I'm the host and the game master on the Tabletop Gold Actual Play podcast. I run Pathfinder Second Edition with and for four of my good friends. We put out our show on all the podcast apps every week. We have a great time. If you don't know the show, you'd love it. Just check it out. Why don't you? Right? But that's not what this is. This show today, GODMAKER, this is our fifth time doing it. We've been doing it every week. It's become our new weekly show on every Wednesday night. And, you know, on our typical week-by-week game, you're hearing us do part of the work of tabletop role-playing games. You're hearing us play the game. We're weaving a story. We're generating a tone. We're digging into a vibe. We're rolling dice. We're fighting each other. We're doing all kinds of crazy stuff on that show. But this show captures kind of the other part of the tabletop role-playing game experience, which is more free-form, creative, creative play. We're coming up with new ideas. We're doing homebrew, okay? This is a show where each episode, homebrew one god. Over the course of the series, we're going to have come up with an entire pantheon of gods, a cornucopia, a horn of plenty filled with deities that can define the forms and the edges of a unique world that we will or will not one day run adventures in. And that's what this show is. You may notice that I'm here in this box all by myself and that there's nobody here. That's because Armat, who typically hosts this show with me, is out of town. Everybody else is busy. None of my friends were here to do this show with me, so it's just you and me. And because of that, viewer, chat, friend, I typically say stuff at the beginning of this show like, you know, we're going to be talking to each other. We got a whole lot of stuff going on, so we're not going to be as active with chat as we normally are. That's not the situation today. I desperately need you and your help, your feedback, your participation, everything else to make this show into something more than just me talking to myself. Like today, I was thinking, like, should I run a video game? Should I even be broadcasting in the first place? Should I just take a break since it's just going to be me? And I just decided ultimately that no, I'm gonna do the show, even if it's just me talking to myself. I'm gonna do the show. I'm gonna homebrew, solo, make a god, and I'm kind of counting on you, chat, viewer, etc., to help me out. Help elevate this show. Help turn this into something good, please. Okay, with that having been said, let's get into it. Let's open up the famous GODMAKER questionnaire. Here I am. It's me. It's the questionnaire. It's chat. Anytime anybody wants to start saying stuff to me, that would be great. But okay, the GODMAKER questionnaire. We fill out this questionnaire. We end the other side with a god. We always have one empty slot. We fill that empty slot. We roll a die. Let's just fill this empty slot this week with option 2. Let's see. What idea do I have for a god tonight? I don't know. I'm all by myself. Nobody's here on the show with me. It's just old Larzo alone. All alone once more. I feel like I spend nearly all of my life alone, right? You know, you wake up some days, it's not until 3 o'clock in the afternoon that you realize you've even said a single word. You're just there with your thoughts, just screaming into the void. Oh, I know. Let's make this the god of loneliness and solitude. This is the point when I roll a d8 and see which god it is that we're going to make today. Whoops, my d8 rolled a 2. Oh, I didn't show myself doing it? Here's the d8. Ah, I rolled it. It's a 2. Hey, guess what, guys? We are today together going to create the god of loneliness and solitude, as it's me by myself on Twitch with nobody here to help me. Okay, let's keep going. Which of the following best describes this god? I'm here today, by the way, by myself, enjoying a glass of Noah's Mill. It's a bourbon that my wife got me for my birthday, which was this week. It's lovely. It's a wonderful beverage. I kind of have an idea for this god of loneliness and solitude. And that idea is to make this god of loneliness and solitude not a humanoid, not a living creature, but perhaps an inanimate object. And I'm sort of torn between two possible options here. Either this is a formless void, like literally an abyss, like an emptiness that a person interacts with and connects to, or it's a star. I was thinking maybe there's a star up in the sky that has no constellation. You know what, guys? No, never mind. There's like no constellation that this star is a part of. And it's like this god probably finds followers either when they're like interacting with an abstract void or when they're gazing at a star and the star perhaps talks to them. So I'm not really sure which way to go. I feel like one of those is much more hopeful than the other. You know, like I feel like the idea of a star that reaches down to you and talks to you as you're by yourself, I think has some appeal to it. I think that's an uplifting kind of positive representation of what loneliness could be. It presents loneliness and solitude as a place where hope can be found, where direction can be found, right? If you look out to a star and it guides you, like stars typically are used in navigation. So this presents the idea of this god of solitude and loneliness as a source of inspiration and positivity in a person's life. And then there's the idea of it just being a void, where I feel as though the vision of that kind of god is that this is something that a person worships when they are a shut-in, when they're on their own, when they are, you know, writing all by themselves or just locked in a room all by themselves. And this god comes to them and interacts with them, talks to them, and helps or hinders, pulls them down, but motivates them forward to do something, whether it's positive or negative. And as I'm talking this through, and this is the process, and I'm glad that this process is working out, even though it's just me. By the way, it's sort of a weird experience to just stream all by yourself and have no game that you're playing. I know people do it all the time, but it's an interesting experience, is all I'll say. I'm realizing that this is a god that could potentially be a god of prisoners. That prisoners, people who are in forced isolation, could potentially connect with this god. So I think the idea of a star is too limiting because, and I think also the idea that it's an abyss that pulls you down into a dark place is too limiting. I think that it has to be potentially able to do both things. It has to be able to inspire you to find the fortitude to endure loneliness, but also needs to be able to drag you down and potentially pull you to a weird place. That's kind of like what we did last week with the Harvest God Graced. That was sort of like a dual-sided thing. So maybe that's not something we want to do this time. So let's turn this into something a little less sad sacky. And instead of making it loneliness and solitude, let's make it loneliness, solitude, and gosh. Motivation, ambition, direction. Where should we go with this? What's the word for what I'm trying to say? This is a god of loneliness, solitude, and purpose. Great. This is a god that finds people when they're starting off on a project by themselves. This is a god that finds people when they are in isolation. This is potentially a god that finds people when they get lost, when they get separated from their companions. So it seems as though we're saying the word find, and by we, I mean I. I'm saying the word find a lot. So that potentially is something we should keep track of. Maybe that's something we should remember. Because this god of loneliness and solitude seems like they would find people who are by themselves. Okay. So I like the idea of this being a, maybe not a vague concept, like an inanimate object. Or it could be a hunter. No, that doesn't make sense. Let's call this, maybe it's a bug. It's something that can pass through barricades, but also can find people, can seek people out very well. Let's say it's an insect-like thing. And let's say that it's a mosquito. I think mosquitoes are solitary, right? Like mosquitoes don't do pack tactics. They don't hunt together. They search for people. They smell out blood and they hunt for it. And a mosquito can inject a person with something really negative, right? A mosquito can give you malaria, or a mosquito could potentially give you something else, right? Like a mosquito takes your blood, it takes something from you, and it puts some of its own juice into you. So let's go for that. Let's do that one. Right? Why not? Shouldn't we do that one? Let me do one thing real quickly before we move on. Okay, we're doing it. It's happening. Okay. It's a mosquito. I think this is a small mosquito. Okay, what's this god's name? This mosquito god of loneliness, solitude, and purpose. Let's think. We've started with Irish words before. Let's say Irish word for alone. Start there. This suggests there are a couple situations here. Maonar is one. That's spelled M''AONAR. I'll put that in here as we work through this. See that? Maonar. Maonar. What else? There's another word here that is like standalone, which is another Irish word that I'll paste the spelling of here. Niamsplach. And that's certainly not the pronunciation. I'm not trying to tell you that I know how to pronounce Irish words. But these are words that we can draw from. There's some solo, like a Han Solo, perhaps. Oh, baby mannequin, you've saved my life. Thank you so much for participating in chat right now. This is so helpful and so necessary. It's you and me, baby mannequin, as long as you're around. Just tuned in. Baby mannequin, we're making the god of solitude and loneliness. I'll leave it up to you to guess why it is that we're doing that, but okay. Einsamkelt. Oh yeah, that's sort of like Swedish. I speak Swedish, kind of. Einsam is alone. So let's meld these together, shall we? Let's make some choices. Why not? What's stopping us from making a choice? Nothing. Okay. So Einsamkelt. Einsam. Let's hang out with Einsam for a little bit. And let's see. What do we want to do with this? Einsam, and it's a mosquito. It's a thing that smells, that hunts, that sniffs things out. Let's see. Irish word for smell. We can go there. Bolad. Einsam. See, this is where we're revealing that when I have other people here on the stream with me, that coming up with names is something that I tend to sit in the back seat for. I'm like, whatever, who cares what the name is? But when it's just me, I need to make a choice, and I need to make it cool and good. So let's just call this, let's start with, yeah, okay, so the German word for mosquito is mosquito. Let's call this Einsamosk. So it's kind of alone and also mosquito. Let's call them Einsamosk. Let's just go with it, right? First thought, best thought. Let's make it happen. Okay, what's the nickname or logline? The first thing that a person will use to describe this god, usually after a comma. So here we go. So this is Einsamosk, comma, the seeker, the finder, the encounterer, the passer between walls, the companion. So the god of solitude, loneliness, and purpose is the companion. Let's put another word in that complicates that. So it's not just the companion, it's the maybe it's like a Schrodinger's cat kind of thing, where you don't know if they're with you or not, or they are half with you and half not with you. Maybe that's too weird. Maybe that doesn't make sense. Perhaps. Who's to say? Yeah, companion. What kind of companion? It's like the invisible, the unseen companion. How about that? Einsamosk, the unseen companion. Let's do it. Okay. Does this god have any special physical features, i.e. an unusual number of limbs, strangely colored hair, noteworthy body parts of animals, etc.? I think that they have to be small, microscopic. This is a microscopic god. It is absolutely a question of faith that they are with you. It is something that if you look for them, you don't necessarily find them. It absolutely requires faith to know that they are with you or that they are alongside of you. I think it's also important. I kind of like the idea that they are not sentient. This is a god that has no will, has no purpose, that carries something with it, that injects you with something that, maybe that's too much. Yeah, I don't like that. That's not fun. Okay, so they're microscopic. Maybe it's like the buzzing in your ears. Maybe it's like when a mosquito buzzes in your ears, but also like, have you ever heard about, I think Microsoft has one of these. There's the like anechoic chamber, this room that you go into that they use to like, rate the noise output of electronics and to make sure that things are like the various like high-end engineering tasks require you to test things in rooms that have no ability to reverberate sound, have no sound, just completely dead rooms. And people go into these rooms and it's dangerous to do it because your brain can't handle it. You start hearing the rushing of blood in your head. You start hearing all of your bodily functions. You hear like your throat, the gross saliva sounds of your mouth like become louder and louder for you. So as you are alone in this place with no input, you hear this sound of the rush of blood in your own head. And maybe that's akin to the sound of this mosquito visiting you in your head. And you don't know, like, the sound that this mosquito makes is indistinguishable from the sound of your own body in a room without sound. A phantom drone, says Baby Mannequin. Yes. The unseen companion, or the phantom drone. Okay, I like both of those. Let's pick one of them eventually. So does this god have any specific physical features? Okay, they're microscopic. And I think that's it. I'd say that let's say that they're metal. They're metallic. It's a small metallic mosquito. Given all of the above, how would you describe this god in one phrase or sentence? They are a microscopic metallic mosquito. Done. What are their relationships to other gods? And we need to add graced on here. And I think that the answer is, well, let's go through this. Voltheros, the god of the way, the god of civic infrastructure, public transportation, and quotidian travel. I'm going to say they're strangers, right? There's no real connection. If you are on public transportation, if you are doing quotidian travel, you're not alone. They don't have any deal with each other. They could be related, but there's no real connection here. Rayam. That's not their name. What? Did I get the name of this god wrong? Rahayam. Oh, I just spelled it. I just said it wrong. Okay, good. So Rahayam, the god of dreams, the mushroom god that comes and connects people together. I think that they are antagonists. They don't like each other. And they're antagonists. I think that maybe they're siblings who hate each other. Because Rahayam is all about finding the space between minds, between consciousnesses, connecting into like a Jungian sort of like subconscious kind of deal, finding connection, finding community, finding language, and so on and so forth. And that's the opposite of what we're saying for Einsamosk. The Einsamosk is finding something within yourself. It's not about connection. It's a completely different, it's a similar, it's a connected but directly opposed, I think, idea of consciousness. There's no sense of community here with Einsamosk. Fionn Glitterhearth, the god of obsessive decoration and crafting and things like that. I think that there's some connection. I think that maybe Einsamosk rode on Fionnan's shoulder at one point, perhaps. And then Greist, the god of harvest, communities burning things to dance around and get stuff done. I think there's no connection. Let's say there's no real connection. Okay. Biography. Please share any myth or origin story that explains some detail about who they are or connects some real world occurrence to something this god has done. I think that there could be something here of like a prisoner was, I'm going to make multiple lines for this. A prisoner was locked in a cell for years, and was forgotten. When they were eventually excavated and recovered from their solitary confinement, they possessed perfect sanity and incredible. No, that's not. It's sanity isn't right. Like they Well, we want purpose. They like what is it that this god did for this person? Let's see. They were when they eventually were excavated and recovered from their solitary confinement, they like did they have psychic powers? Did they I see. They refused to be brought back to society. Okay. This is somebody that found communion with Einsamosk. Okay. A prisoner was locked. Okay, what else do we have? After a shipwreck, there was one survivor. And they were inspired by Einsamosk to journey on their own to a new land, potentially. Maybe we have something that says like Einsamosk was said to have been birthed from the head of a child left in a cave. Oh gosh, I need to reset. Let's fix that right there. There we go. Let's fix that a little bit more, shall we? Let's fix it a little bit more. Let's open that up. Okay, cool. Baby Mannequin says, what if it was someone who intentionally sought solitude and an ascetic who went further into isolation than everywhere else? Well, I think that's a great idea. And I think that would be like a typical follower of Einsamosk. But let's say a hermit who had lost faith in the communities they had lived in, left their town for a life on top of a mountain, right? That kind of thing. On top of a mountain, and returned with incredible wisdom and power, starting the first church of Einsamosk. Oh, this is very interesting. So like the church of Einsamosk could be on top of a mountain, and let's make further away from others than anyone had ever gone. So the idea of like a church of Einsamosk being like an isolated, you would want churches, you'd want some sort of network, but it's probably like so difficult to determine how it works because they need to largely be separated from each other. That communion with other people is probably like something that is really awful. Baby Mannequin, kind of the opposite of Buddha. Instead of realizing that everything is one, they realize everything is in isolation. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Let's put that in here in this into this biography. They realized that the power of isolation and disconnection from the world. This is getting interesting. I like this. I mean, I always say this every single week that like this show is super fun, and I'm a little stressed out right now because I'm just like hosting solo, and that's tough. But I really do like doing this. I think it is like such a good time to sort of piece this stuff together and just like run through this questionnaire. So thanks, Baby Mannequin. Thanks for helping me out with this. Okay, the image section. It's time for the fabled image section. I'm going to kick us on over to this chat only page, if you don't mind. for just one hot minute as I start generating images. Let's tidy that up a little bit. There we go. Great. Okay, so I'm going to go on to world famous and detested image generation deal DALL-E 2, which I guess is just now called DALL-E. That's weird. They changed the branding on it, I feel. So what are we doing? We're doing a microscopic metallic mosquito. And we always do painted by Raphael, because Raphael, as we all know, is the house artist for Tabletop Gold. Let's see what we got here on the old image gen, shall we? Let's take a look. Chat amongst yourselves. I think this seems like, to me, like it came out pretty well. Let me show you what I got here. I kind of feel as though option 4, this one right here, is pretty good. Maybe I'm seeing a lantern hanging from them. It's not a lantern, but it looks like a lantern, and it has me wondering whether we want to change the description of what this god looks like. So it's not just a metallic god, or a metallic microscope. Maybe it's like, maybe there is a lantern. Maybe there is something of a guiding light here, since they're a god of purpose. So let's say like with a lantern hanging from their proboscis, and let's see if we can make an image of that. See how that feels. Microscopic metallic mosquito with a lantern hanging from their proboscis. Let's see if DALL-E 2 knows what a proboscis is. Right? Let's see what happens. Let's get to the bottom of this question that we've all been asking. Does DALL-E 2 speak proboscis? And the answer is no. They don't know. This is like a hot air balloon. This is nonsense. Let's just return to the other one, and let's make a variation on this. Let's see if like that weird thing hanging from the mosquito becomes a bigger deal. And yeah, no, we cannot teach the AI about proboscis. It's just fully irresponsible. Okay, this is what we got back. I don't like it. I don't think it's good. Let's just go with the original number 4. Let's make it happen. Let's do that one. That's the image of Einsamosk, the god of loneliness and solitude and purpose. So what do we got here? I've got to save it to the right place. That's the thing I'm going to do. This is a lot easier typically when I have people just sort of saying nonsense the entire time. There we go. So now we're going to make their holy symbol, right? That's the next thing that we've got to do. We've got to get the holy symbol. So, oh, well, this needs to be corrected. That's, of course, incorrect. What is this god's holy symbol? When I was thinking about this before, as I was steaming about how I was going to do the show by myself, I was like, maybe it's a mirror. Maybe this is a creature that, or this is a god that you like look in the mirror and it tells you what you need to know. I'm not so sure about that, but I feel like some kind of symbol of isolation. I think that this is a god that does not need to have a symbol that remotely relates to the physical manifestation. Like, we don't need to have a god that is a mosquito. We just need to have we don't need to have a symbol that is a mosquito. We just want to have a symbol that that captures this idea of solitude and of, well, maybe this is where we get the star. And maybe that's what's hanging from the Einsamosk's nose. Is it's not a lantern, it's a star hanging from their proboscis. So it's a mosquito carrying a star. So it's both infinitely small and impossibly large. It's something so small you can't see it, but it carries with it a spark of an entire like universe along with it, right? So let's do that. The image of let's just say this holy symbol is a star. Let's just do that one. How many points should this star have? Let's see. It can't be that many, right? More points suggests more connection, more community, etc., etc. Is there such thing as a 3-pointed star? Why would it be 3? I don't like it. That's not good. So let's see. What kind of let's just see what this dumb image thing spits out when I ask it to generate a star, right? Let's just do it. Let's just go for it. What's the fewest points you can have for a star? 4? I sort of feel like you could have a 3-pointed star if it's like the Yamaha symbol. Is that what that is? Probably not. So let's say a stained glass window of a star. Let's just see what that looks like. And I'll show you, see how you like it. Yeah, 4-pointed star. I think a 3-pointed star. I'd say that, well, this, I just like don't think this is good. Like I don't think this captures what we're looking for. Gosh. The Mercedes-Benz logo. Yeah, that's a 3-pointed star. Sure, of course. Yeah, this god, their symbol is a Mercedes-Benz logo. I feel like I didn't ask for this the right way. I want to see right. Okay. So let's say let's try this one more time. A stained glass window depicting a tiny star. What if it was just an empty circle? I like that. I think that's a good idea. I think that's nice. I think that's something we should definitely look at if we don't like how this turns out. And I'm going to tell you, I don't like how this turned out. So let's ask for that. Let's say a stained glass window depicting an empty circle. Here, hey Dolly, can you make the dumbest thing for me? Can you make a thing with basically no features and then just make it a stained glass window? So here's what we got from Dolly for that. I don't love these. So maybe it's part of the problem here is okay, empty circle. Let's say depicting a dot. What if it's just a dot? What if it's like the the hydrogen molecule, like whatever, Captain Manhattan or whatever from the Watchmen. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. Kind of like the Enzo, the circle of togetherness in Zen. I don't know about that. Oh gosh, look at this. Look at what I'm putting on this chat. Do you see this garbage that I'm trying to call a production? Let me resize this chat window. Oh gosh. What a nightmare. We're going to make this look real good in 2 shakes of the lamb's tail. Just give me one hunt minute. Okay. There we go. That's better. Okay. Very good. The Enzo, the circle of togetherness in Zen. I don't know what that is. I don't know a lot about Zen. I'm going to tell you, for somebody who spends every Wednesday night making a god on the internet, I know basically nothing about religion, and I have no concept of any sort of spirituality whatsoever. So I'm a little what you would call ignorant about that. And I apologize for that. Of course, I don't feel good about the things that I don't know, but there are things that I don't know. I'm not loving these stained glass windows. I think we need something a little more iconic. Let's say depicting a small circle. Let's just try that. Okay, Wirtz is telling me about Buddha. That's good. It's an incomplete circle made with a single brushstroke. That's very interesting. I like that. This Dolly is not happy with the idea of a stained glass window with nothing in it because it just threw me a cross over here. And that is not what I was asking for. Wirtz, by the way, if you're still getting caught up, we're making Einsamosk, the god of solitude and loneliness, to commemorate the fact that I'm here by myself and nobody's on this stream with me. Okay. I think that they would need to be able to draw something. I like the idea of a circle, but this is just not getting it done. Dolly is not giving me what I want right now. So let's see. How can we get this to do anything? Maybe we go from the symbol. We go back to the idea that this is a mosquito that makes sounds that is like identical to the sound of blood in your head as you're by yourself. So I'm just going to type this phrase in. A stained glass window depicting noise. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see if that comes out with anything remotely usable. And the answer may surprise you. No, this is garbage. This is not noise. This is a guy kicking another guy. This is not noise. This is a harp. And this is a harp with a guy this is a guy yelling at a harp. This is a lady grabbing a hold of a tentacle. Is this just a Rorschach test? Am I just revealing certain things about my subconscious that I shouldn't be? Damn it, this always happens. This is like an angel with a knife and there's a wave. Well, how do we do this? How do we get Dolly to make a stained glass window depicting nothing? Let's shift away from stained glass window and just say a window with a dot on it. Just see how Dolly deals with that. It's not a stained glass window. It's just a window with a dot on it. And this came back with something weird. But you know, there's something to this maybe. Let's go back to a stained glass window depicting a hydrogen atom and see what that looks like. Just getting back to the Dr. Manhattan side of things. See if that gets us anywhere. Let's see how we feel about that. And the answer is, again, I don't feel great about it. I don't like it. So maybe we get away from the stained glass window. And the symbol, let's see, what do we like? What are we feeling good about the symbol? The empty circle? Maybe let's just ask for that. Let's just ask for an empty circle. I think it makes sense. There doesn't need to be a dot. There doesn't need to be a... oh, look at this. Would you look at this? Let's just go with this one, right? We feel good about this. This is a circle. Let's make it happen. Let's move on, right? We don't want to just look at pictures all day. We want to keep making a god. So there we go. That's our symbol. It's an empty circle. We don't have it as a stained glass window because, and it's not my fault, because Dolly sucks. Okay. We did it. It's time to move on now to our cool page where we're putting everything together. Look at this. You see how this is coming together? You see this production value? I just got images and now they're here on the layout on screen. Isn't that cool? Aren't we feeling good about this? We're feeling great. Okay, follower section. What sorts of locales typically house this god's followers? I'm going to say that single followers exist out in the wilderness, right? Single. So we're gonna I guess we're gonna go countryside here, and we're gonna bold this. Single followers live out in the wilderness, tops of mountains, tops of trees, deep caves. I like this as an adventuring idea because it's like you could literally, like in a game, right? You could literally put a follower of this god anywhere you wanted to. Like all you have to do is have a locked door, and then it's like you open the door and it's like, "Hi, I'm a cleric of Einsamosk. I'm here to TPK your party with my, by casting fireball," and you repeatedly. That's fun. Is that fun? I think it's fun. Tops of mountains, tops of trees, deep caves. I think they could be in. I think they could be in extra planar locations. Extra planar locations. Pocket dimensions. Right? Like maybe a follower of Einsamosk climbed into a bag of holding, figured out how to not need to breathe, and then just hung out in that space for eternity. Right? Perhaps some of the this is getting into much higher fantasy than we have gotten to, but let's think about this. Immortal beings might worship Einsamosk. Like, people might choose to make themselves undead to worship Einsamosk more fully if they get to, like, persist forever. Or they might turn themselves into constructs, right? They might transfer their consciousnesses into gems and things like that in order to have a more solitary experience, right? Like, they may want to, they may find a deeper connection if they are able to separate themselves from a connection to anything else for millennia at a time, potentially. This has gotten terrifying to me now as we're talking through it. This is now scaring the hell out of me. This is a terrifying god. So what is this question here? What sorts of locales? I'm going to say consciousnesses trapped inside of gemstones. Okay. Oh, maybe time bubbles, right? Like, if there's a rituals meant to decelerate time in order to create long periods of solitude in short moments. I bet you. So in that case, Einsamosk, let's find a place to put this. Any specific physical features. This is not a physical feature, but they are detached entirely from time. They can slip between moments and dimensions with no effort, like a mosquito slipping between the gaps in a net. Right? Are we liking where we're going with this? Is this doing anything for anybody? Is this just getting too weird, or are we feeling good? Who's to say? Okay. What sorts of areas house this god's temples? So I think that, like, potentially temples are not necessarily, like, built as permanent structures for group worship. Sites of worship are typically made up of the are made up by the things that a person or being needs in order to exist on their own without communion with others. So temples might be homesteading installation, like homesteading setups, single person farms, prisons on rivers, if that makes any sense. Right. Temples, I think temples could also be artifacts that will trap a consciousness for long periods of time. Do you guys know the Stephen King short story The Jaunt? Is that what it's called? The Jaunt, is that what it's called? Yeah. Where it's like they invent a teleportation technology and you have to be knocked unconscious as you go through that teleportation process. Otherwise, you're exposed to, like, your consciousness is exposed to, like, endless stretches of time and isolation, and you come out the other side of this teleportation having felt like you've lived through millions of years, and you go completely insane and you freak out. I think that there's potentially something to be said for for temples being like magical things that essentially act as like magical sensory deprivation chambers, right? So maybe you would like get into a cave and you would realize that this is a temple to Einsamosk, because you find like a coffin or some sort of tube that like holds a person in place for long periods of time. Could be. Okay. What sorts of professions might this god's followers have? I don't think a lot of professionals exist in this. I'm going to say no, not really. None. These people do not participate in society. They don't have professions. They either have wealth that supports them independently, or they undergo magical rituals that keep them alive as they endure solitude. Do this god's followers typically wear any sort of clothing to show their devotion? I don't think so. I'm going to say no. The social element of clothing is anathema to followers of Einsamosk. Like you don't want people, like you don't care to be seen by people, or they don't care to be seen by people. They don't care to be seen by people, and they do not value social capital gained by specific sorts of dress. Right? I know the chat's really small on this page. That's something I could fix next time. This is a tricky situation, guys. Next time I'll smooth this out. The problem is that this one's more vertical than the other. Doesn't matter. Do this god's followers practice any sort of ritual ranging from the mundane to the absurd? I think absolutely. They ritualistically disconnect their minds from the material demands of reality. This means like disassociative psychedelics. I seem to have not spelled that correctly. That's also not, apparently it's not a word. Dissociative psychedelics could be part of this. Simple sensory deprivation chambers are part of their ritual practice. And even on a simpler level, on an even simpler level, leaving society and venturing off into the wilderness is part of this as well. So I kind of feel like the thing that we're describing right now is, then let's just make this, there are multiple sects of this god. I think this is important to make its own sort of like chapter here, its own sort of heading here, for a few reasons. Because the practice is so solitary, different groups of people, and I'm parentheses, different groups of loosely connected people, have very different ideas about how to worship this god. There are three main sects. Naturalistic Einsamosk worshippers, those who venture out into the wilderness to spend long stretches of time in nature to age and live a normal human life, human or whatever, life in as solitary a way as is naturally possible. Then you have like the DMT Joe Rogan Einsamosk followers. You have the then you have the like let's just call them technological Einsamosk followers. There's a better word for this. These are people who modify their bodies, enter into long stretches of extreme isolation, and enter into long stretches of extreme isolation, usually aided by tanks and psychedelics, to worship their god. And then you have like extreme supernatural worshipers. These are people who fully abandon their humanity and their connection to time and space to pursue realities and existences that are completely disconnected from from literally everything. These worshipers trap their consciousnesses in gems, search for literal eternities of solitude, searching for literal eternities of solitude. They are often identifiable by their like fractured psyches and incomprehensible value systems. Does that make sense? Like I feel like these are three very different ideas, and I think it's worth drawing them out because they're both about commitment to, they're all three about commitments to loneliness, solitude, and purpose, or, solitudinousness, who knows? Solitude and purpose, but they're like so different. Like a person who goes to the top of a mountain and like listens to their breathing, I think would have nothing in common, would be antagonistic to a person who like does a teleportation ritual and makes sure that they spend like literal eternities traveling between times. Like I can see that Einsamosk would be there for all three of them, but that socially, like the social connection between these three groups is so different from each other and is allowed to be so different from each other because this is not a god that is defined by community. Like each person who worships this god makes their own individual choices about how to pursue that. And some people take it to a place where they like, let's say that these extreme magical ones, like they may themselves take on characteristics of Einsamosk, either carrying the power of stars within themselves, or taking on bug-like appearance. Okay. Are there any aphorisms or sayings that this god's followers tend to say? This one's tough. I think they should say something. I don't know what they should. This is so difficult. Okay, so what would followers of Einsamosk say? They would say, 1. but stretch it out really long. So they're it's kind of like a chin. It's like a drone, right? It's a drone. Like it's a literal drone, like a ah, that kind of thing, right? Hey, what do you say now that since we're having a little bit of fun with audio here? What do you never mind. Okay. So I think that's probably all we need. They just would drone. So like if you have adventurers wandering around in this world, if they hear that like they know that potentially a worship. Oh, and it also it's a literal drone, and it maps onto the noise that the mosquito makes in their heads, and also the sound of their own blood rushing through their skulls. Right? Cool. To sum this all up, what are this god's areas of concern? What are the 2 or 3 gods that their godhood covers? I feel like we went back and cheated on this. We already revised it, but it's solitude. I don't think it starts with loneliness. Solitude, loneliness, and purpose. And I think purpose is good here because like it explains the kind of like it explains the extreme lengths that their followers would go to, but also it's like I think that let's addend this for just 1 second. Do this god's followers wear any? Okay, what sorts of professions might this god's followers have? I think for truly devoted followers, there are no professions. However, anyone who does solitary creative work, writers, right? Like an Ernest Hemingway is probably a follower of Einsamosk. Writers, missile silo. No, that's okay. Hold on. Writers, painters, sculptors, whatever the fantasy equivalent of computer programmers is, right? So there would definitely be followers that dip into that. There would be followers that dip into Einsamosk stuff. They don't need to be completely solitary people, but they probably are people who do work that is on their own, and they probably don't go to temples. They probably do their worship by doing their writing or whatever it is. Okay, sorry. Let's keep going. Okay, the mechanical section, basic stuff. What are this god's edicts? What must their followers strive to do? Find meaning in solitude. Allow oneself to be found by Einsamosk in never mind. Allow themselves to be found by Einsamosk, period. What is anathema to this god? What must their followers strive never to never do? And the answer to that is, let's see. What would they never do? They would never, I would say have families, but I do think that there are probably followers of Einsamosk who just commune with him, like, or with them, with it, in moments. Like there doesn't necessarily need to be like a complete disconnection from reality, although the extreme followers definitely do that. But, so the things that they must strive to never do, I'm kind of tempted to say none. I'm going to say extreme followers try their hardest to spend as little time around others as possible. But but more casual followers find moments to worship and seek Einsamosk during times that fit into their normal lifestyles. So, and as such, community is not anathema to them. What is this god's alignment? Neutral, right? Do we feel that way? Is it chaotic neutral? I don't know. I think it's just neutral. We're coming up with a lot of neutral gods. I think next time we do this, we got to get somebody that's like good or evil in here. Or maybe that's just going to be the nature of this setting, is that gods tend to be neutral and people bring their own morality to their worship of the god. Maybe that's just like a way of doing things that I think is good. Hard to say. What alignments might this god's followers adhere to? I like chaotic neutral. I like, let's do the whole grid. So what do? It's like chaotic, evil's on the left, good is on the right, chaotic is on the top, lawful's on the bottom. So chaotic evil, would they follow Einsamosk? Yes, of course. Chaotic good neutral, would they follow Einsamosk? Yeah, sure. Chaotic good, would they follow Einsamosk? Maybe not, but maybe, I don't know. Okay, then we have neutral. Oh yeah. Okay, well, I'm doing this backwards, baby Manic, and I apologize. Neutral evil, would they follow Einsamosk? Maybe. What does neutral evil mean? Neutral evil just means that's not like a tyrant. It's just somebody that likes doing bad stuff. What is neutral evil? I don't know. Just selfish. Yes, definitely. Neutral evil would do that. Okay, true neutral certainly would. And then neutral good. Would a neutral good yeah, why not, right? If they think that wisdom comes from being from disconnecting from society, of course, no problem. Okay, now we're doing lawful. We're doing lawful evil. Would lawful evil want Einsamosk? I kind of don't think so. I kind of think that lawful evil relies too much on domination. It relies too much on like creating societies that crush people. So I don't think lawful evil is in it. Lawful neutral, I don't really know what that means. Laws, I think, don't matter to Einsamosk, so I'm going to say no. And lawful good, no, right? Like, you're not going to be the sheriff and be like, make sure you stay away from everybody. So let's just say, tell me if you like this, friends. All non-lawful alignments. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you like this? Just keep it simple. If you're worshiping Einsamosk, the mosquito god of solitude, loneliness, and purpose, you can't be lawful. You can't be interested in exerting control over large groups of people. Okay, fine. Devotee benefits. We're getting into mechanics. This is a good time. This all flows downhill from here. What divine ability does this god grant? So what do we do here? This would be wisdom, perhaps? I think wisdom. Let's say wisdom. And do we get to pick 2 for this? I think maybe we do get to pick 2. So wisdom, I think wisdom is the best one. Constitution, because you have to be able to withstand long periods of what's the word I'm looking for? Of malnutrition. Okay. Does this god have a heal font, a harm font, or both? I'm going to say both. What divine skill or skills does this god grant their followers? Let's see. I think Arcana should certainly be part of it. Nature could be part of it. I think occultism could definitely be part of it. Survival. So let's, instead of Arcana, what do we think of our occultism instead of Arcana? So occultism and survival. Let's do it. What is this god's favorite weapon? Let's load up the list, everybody. What? This god that doesn't want to be around anybody? What weapon do they use to fucking stab a dude with? What about a bola? A thing that wraps around something. Do we like that? Do we like a bola as a divine weapon? Seems like it should be a ranged weapon to me. Should it be an explosive dog slicer? Is that what we should be doing? Should we be exploding and slicing up some dogs for this god, Einsamosk, the god of solitude, loneliness, and purpose? Let's just say bola. A spear to mimic the proboscis. Well, if we're going in that direction, is there, if we're going in that direction, maybe we, hear me out for a second. What if it's a, blowgun? To be even more like the proboscis. How do we feel about blowgun versus spear versus rapier? A lot of different options here. What do we think? People coming with me on blowgun, or are we feeling spear or rapier? Blowgun not getting a lot of... Oh, blowgun is good. People are into blowgun. Maybe it's a clockwork makawattle. Sorry, makawaweedle. Of course, as we all know from Grand Bazaar, it's a wooden club covered with gears. I'm kind of buying Wirtz's argument that a rapier is the most proboscis-like weapon. Let's do it. Let's just do it. Let's say rapier. Let's just go. Let's just make it happen. Okay. What domains of magic? I gotta tell you, I love the domains. This is really where rubber meets the road on the mechanical side here. It's so much fun to come up with 4 different things here. Okay. I'm going to throw some out here. Introspection. Yes, of course. Of course it should be introspection. Just to remind you of the flavor text or introspection, you guide others in examining their lives, emotions, and motivations to ultimately become a truer version of themselves, a difficult and often painful process. They get the focus spells Guided Introspection, which makes people look inside of themselves and helps them not be confused. I like that. They get Confront Selves, which is you show the target the spiraling web of actions and consequences that is their life and the choices wrought by these decisions upon themselves and those around them. The events swirl around the target like shards of broken pottery, and each time you sustain the spell, you force the target to confront an alternate permutation. What an incredible spell. My God, what is this from? This is from Bloodlords. We have taken so many focus spells from Bloodlords. It really feels like Bloodlords raised the quality of a lot of these like domains. I feel like they're so good. Repose, says Baby Mannequin. Repose, you ease mental burdens. I like that for especially the solitary confinement part of this. Repose from Gods and Magic, of course. Font of Serenity. Let's say time, maybe? What does time get you? Delay, consequence, and stasis. I don't like it. I don't like it. So, star. You demand the powers of stars. We said that this is a god that carries a star. Zenith star. You call a tiny star to orbit a creature before shooting them into the heavens. Let's just do it. Let's just say star domain. Let's just make it happen. Why not? Right? What are we? Criminals? Don't answer that. We're going to do one more. One more. Perfection. Do we like perfection? Perfected mind and perfected form. You meditated upon perfection to remove all distractions from your mind. Attempt a new will save. I like perfection. Secrecy, I don't think that we've gone to secrecy, because I think that secrecy, this is just my interpretation of the situation. I believe that secrecy is too socially motivated. Secrecy is too much about keeping things away from other people. I don't think that you care about what other people are going through necessarily when you are solitary is the word I was looking for. So let's say introspection, repose, star, and perfection, and I want to throw an alternate domain. I want to throw nature out here to sort of capture the like go out into nature part of this. Okay? Do we like this? We like it, right? We like it. Come on. We're good. So we're going to pick spells now. This is another great part. I think I like domains more, in part because the spells list is just awful and impossible to navigate, and there is a million of them. Let's go to table view, and of course we're going to do the filter. Traditions does not contain divine. Let's go. Let's make that happen. Okay, cool. So we need a level 1 spell, and this is going to be real tricky. So, let's see. Level 1 spells. What do we think? What do we think? A lot of these are cantrips. I think I'm sorting this the wrong way. I find this interface difficult to navigate. Okay. Let's find some spells. How about endure? You invigorate the target's mind and get them to press on. It's from Gods and Magic. This is a 1-action somatic spell, and you grant the touched creature temporary hit points. It's too. I don't like it. I don't care for it. Guided introspection, we already got that. That's a focus spell, of course. Hyper focus? That's a focus spell. Never mind. Let's see. This is really difficult for this. This is like the hardest that this has been so far. Mind link, no. I feel like a PC that worships this god would really be a problem. You know what I mean? This is not a fun PC to play. Gosh. Seashell of Stolen Sound? You store a sound in a seashell to... Who cares? Why would you want this spell? No. No. Sleep. Sleep, guys. The sleep spell. How do we feel about sleep as a level 1 spell that Einsamosk worshippers would get? I don't know. I don't know anymore. There are so many spells in this game. We could go with Unseen Servant. It's like you're summoning Einstein. I don't know. That doesn't make sense. It's not good. It is not good. Okay. I don't have anything better. We're going with Sleep as a level 1 spell. If anybody else comes up with anything, shout it out, guys. Okay, so now we get at least 2 more spells that are not level 1 necessarily. How about mind games? You lock minds with the targets, trying to mentally subdue them. I just like don't see this thing about connecting minds that much. Like I'm just like not really feeling it. Lose the path. Yeah, it could be. That's a thing that slows people down and gets them lost. Let's put it in there. I am having so much trouble coming up with... Okay, I've got a good one. Hypercognition. You rapidly catalog and collate information relevant to your current situation. I think that's kind of implied by this sort of like spending time by yourself thing, by introspection. Like you think through things quickly. Part of the advantage of being by yourself is that you get access to your thoughts more readily. Hypercognition, I think, feels like a good spell to get. I think that's like totally. I think that's totally cool. There's a spell here called Sea of Thought from Dark Archive. You cover it's a 15-foot burst. You cover the area in a sloshing torrent of semi-solidified thought, roughly ankle high. The area becomes difficult terrain. Each creature that starts in the area has to make a fortitude save. And they take a penalty to speeds, and on a critical failure, they're knocked prone. I don't really like it. I don't really feel good about it. I don't really feel good about it. Maybe invisibility. Like, why not, right? Like, if you invisibility having no impact on the people around you, I think is potentially a good idea. And invisibility is it's just so simple. I think that's something that we could absolutely do. I think it makes sense. Oh, and like a teleportation spell, right? Like, if you need to get away quickly. So there's a lot of those. Let's find a good one. Let's come up with a blink. How does blink work? You blink quickly between the material plane and the ethereal plane. You gain resistance to damage. You can sustain the spell and reappear 10 feet away in a random direction. Yeah, I like blink. Do I like dimension door? It sort of feels like teleportation spells are really the bread and butter here. I think that might be why we've been having trouble with this. Dimension door, that's like you open a door and you teleport yourself away. So that's good. Let's say that we like that more than blink. We're going to lose a couple of these in a second. I want to add a damage spell. I want to add a mega long range damage spell. What is the longest range damage spell? Like how long a range can a spell be? I know like Ray of Frost is 120 feet. But what else is there that can like what is a slotted spell that goes what's a slotted spell that goes really, really far? If anybody has any ideas. Like a sort of sniper kind of spell. I'm trying. This is very difficult. Oh, okay. Well, that's a focus spell. Never mind. There could be a wall. Could Wall of Force be a spell here? Like you're literally setting up. We're gonna cut this down. We're just brainstorming right now. This has been, oh gosh, what on earth just happened, and why on earth did it just happen? That was wild stuff, guys. Okay, so we're just adding a bunch of different possibilities. I just want to find a damage spell, and then let's cut it let's cut it way down. Let's, you know, cut a lot of these out. This is tough. This is a difficult situation. Oh, maybe there's a way to have Nethys filter ranges. Is that a thing that I can do? This is it's just so difficult. I need to be so much smarter than I am to make spell searching on Nethys, like, make sense. Okay. I don't have it. I don't know. I'm freaking out, man. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a way to do ranges. Maybe we don't get a range spell. Maybe we don't get a maybe we don't do damage. You know? Maybe that just doesn't happen for these folks. They do other weirder stuff more than, you know, shooting lightning at a guy. It's fine. Okay. So let's narrow this down. Sleep. I still like sleep. Lose the path. Hypercognition. I still like hypercognition. Invisibility. Dimension door. Wall of force. Let's just keep all of them. Lose the path. Hypercognition. Invisibility. Dimension door. Wall of force. And sleep. I think that captures the idea. Okay, let's recap. Speaking of capturing things, this is our god, Einsamosk, the mosquito god of loneliness, solitude, and purpose. They are a metallic mosquito with a star hanging from their proboscis. They can detach entirely from time and slip between moments and dimensions with no effort, like a mosquito slipping between the gaps in a net. They hate Rahaim, the god of connection and dreams and consciousness. They did all this crazy stuff with people who are alone. Hermits went off into the wilderness and found Einsamosk. We've got their images right here on the thing. The holy symbol is not a star; it is an empty circle. Their followers live out in the wilderness in extraplanar dimensions. Their consciousnesses are trapped inside of gemstones, or they're in time bubbles. Their temples are the places where people individually worship them. There you go. There are, for people who really, really care, they cannot have a job. They have to be on their own. For anybody who is a less serious worshiper, they are, you know, writers, painters, sculptors, eccentric billionaires, and the like. They don't have any specific clothes that they wear because clothing implies social connection, which is anathema to them. They do ritualistic sensory deprivation things to get deeper and more introspective about themselves. And here's like the big thing with this god is that there are multiple sects. Sect 1, naturalistic worshippers that go off to the tops of mountains and live out natural lives without being around people. There are technological followers who do things like sensory deprivation tanks, psychedelics, and so on to try to have maybe not their entire lifestyle, but long stretches of ritualistic connection to Einsamosk. And then there are extreme supernatural worshippers who are like liches that lock themselves into gems, and people that live inside of bags of holding or live in the spaces between time and things like that. Real weirdos, maniacs, terrifying creatures that have taken solitude to a point where they are literally touching the infinite and being forever screwed over by it. Would worms that walk or swarms that walk be followers? I think so, yeah. Let's put that in the profession situation. That's a job, right? Being a worm that walks is a profession. Worms that walk, and liches and other sort of immortality obsessed supernatural creatures could/would worship Einsamosk. I really feel like when you find, like in a game, when you find a really high level Einsamosk follower, it's probably awful. Like, they're probably just a lot of trouble. Okay. Their aphorism is just to go wah and stretched out to become a drone. Basic stuff. We know what it is that they have to do. Find meaning in solitude. Allow themselves to be found by this mosquito that is searching for them and sniffing for their blood. What's anathema? Extreme followers don't want to do anything related to other people, but more casual followers would lead a normal lifestyle. There's either extreme anathema or no anathema here. Oh man, are they solipsists? Yeah, I think that that's like a risk, right? I think that probably people who are solipsistic followers of Einsamosk are judgmental of and denigrating of casual, like, oh, you think you worship Einsamosk just because you wrote a novel. Like, there's probably a divide there, right? Probably, could be. Who's to say? Okay, their alignment is neutral, as we've established. All non-lawful alignmented people can follow them. Wisdom and constitution are their divine whatevers. They can both heal or harm. Divine skills, we got occultism and survival. Their favored weapon is the rapier, like a mosquito. Their domains are introspection, repose, star, and perfection. Their alternate domain is is nature, as per our statement earlier about like naturalistic followers. And then for our spells, we got sleep, lose the path, hypercognition, invisibility, dimension door, and wall of force. Once again, guys, thank you so much for hanging out and helping me out with that. That was a little bit of an uphill battle at first, but I feel like we got into a good stride, which I deeply enjoyed and really appreciate all of your help. For that. Let's see. What else do we have to say? I feel like we came up with another god that has like that can exist both in the sort of texture of a society, vis-a-vis like people that do very isolated work, but also has like another sort of ramification in the more fantastical side of things, and captures like a psychological idea and turns it into something supernatural and scary and potentially like really well suited for adventuring, which I think is great. I think that's a cool thing. And I like the fact that a lot of these gods that we've come up with so far like have those multiple ways of getting access to them. So you know what? We did it. We had a great time. We had fun. Did we? I think we did. This is the moment when I realize that I have closed the Word document that has my format in it. Don't worry about that. It's fine. Guess what, guys? We're all done here. We did it. We made a god on this week's episode of GODMAKER. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for listening. If you don't know me, I'm Lars. I host with 4 of my good friends an actual play podcast called Tabletop Gold. We play Pathfinder Second Edition. You can find us on every podcast app. We're there. We're wherever you want us to be. If you like what we're doing here on Twitch, follow us here. If you want to see the archive of this show and all of our other episodes of GODMAKER, you can find those on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@tabletopgold. And that's about it. We've got new episodes of the podcast every Monday, new episodes of GODMAKER for now, every Wednesday night live, and the archives hit later. This was super fun. It was a tough challenge to do this one all alone, but I think it came out pretty well. I feel pretty good about it. I hope you had a good time. I hope that you have a good rest of your week. And thank you to everybody who participated in chat. Baby Mannequin Wirtz, you are lifesavers, and you made this a very fun experience when it could have been annoying and scary. So thanks so much. I'll see everybody next time, hopefully with a co-host. And until then, have a great one. Enjoy yourselves. Bye.